Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the virtual program today, Fundraising Skills for Board Members with Lisa Schuck. I'm Claire Simpson, and I serve as the Carey Center Assistant Director of the Community and Collegiate Programs Division. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to thank this year's Community and Collegiate Program sponsors who have pledged to support our efforts in providing meaningful programming to the nonprofit sector. Thank you to Auburn University Outreach, the Community Foundation of East Alabama, the United Way of Central Alabama, the River Region United Way, KPMG, Auburn University Outreach Office of Public Service, the Drummond Thorne Stooks Fund for Excellence, and a community service grant made possible by State Senator Randy Price and State Representative Joe Lovern. Lisa Schuck started her career running a segment of family literacy for the Birmingham Baptist Association more years ago than she cares to share. She understands the challenges and nuances of grant writing and fundraising with a board of directors. For the past 20 years, she has built brands and client experience journeys on a local, regional, and national level. Lisa works with business owners to refine their message, define their strategy, and leverage their resources to make marketing work for them. Please welcome Lisa.
Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be with you guys today and walk you through some ideas on fundraising for your boards. I'm going to quickly share my screen and we will get this show on the road. All right, Claire, give me a thumbs up that we've got screen sharing going. Excellent. All right, let's do this. So, as a former nonprofit director and a current board member, I have been on both sides of the fundraising situation. And one thing that we need to remember is that our nonprofit boards are made up of people from all walks of life and have a variety of reasons why they are involved with your particular organization. There are some basics that you can share with your board of directors that will help them understand how they can help efforts in fundraising and how critical it is for you and your organization. There are also some things you must do within your organization to support your board's efforts. I think at times we do our boards a disservice by forgetting or not understanding where they are coming from and the need to educate them on the importance of fundraising. They're not trained as board members or fundraisers. They joined your organization because they believe in what you do and the impact that your organization is making. Your job is to harness their passion and create brand advocates for your nonprofit. Because if you do that, you will have a board that is aligned and able to fundraise for you and with you effectively. Today, I'm going to give you some tips and tools to help you educate and support your board's efforts in fundraising, which will impact your nonprofit's bottom line. All right, let's see if I got my everything set up to turn pages. There we go. We're going to walk through a little psychology, a little geometry, and a little economics to give you some tips and tools that you can use with your board of directors. We're going to talk about the basics from clarity of your message to the hows and whys of giving, to a simple shape analysis, and then statistics on the economics of fundraising and some ideas on ways to make bringing new donors into your organization ongoing and not just during a once-a-year campaign or event. Understanding how donors think and respond and act to growing is essential to growing your donor base and their philanthropy. The psychology of fundraising is all about messaging and delivering your message in a way that is compelling to those who hear your story. But almost as importantly, your message must be compelling for those who tell your story, your board members in particular. Marketing expert and author Bob Burg is credited with saying, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust in his 1993 book, Endless Referrals. What does this mean for you? It means that people influence people. Think about it. What influences you more, a TV commercial or a social media post or an email or the recommendation of a friend? This holds true for electricians, Netflix movies, and especially for nonprofits that your donors give money to and get involved with their time. Your board has a circle of influence that consists of peers, friends, and contacts. In fact, let's all be honest here. There are times when we have added someone to our board based on who we know they know or think they know. I've done it. I was a nonprofit director for years and years. Now, there are two ways to think about it. Too many times, our board members see fundraising as begging their friends to fork over some cash. But remember, there was a reason why each particular board member joined the board of your specific nonprofit organization. It wasn't just a hand over money. It was because they believe in the work you are doing, the mission, and the change you are making. That has value. And philanthropy is inviting others to believe in the mission of your organization as well. To do that, your board members need to be able to tell your story, whether that be through impact numbers, a vision for the future, stories of success. You, as the director, need to give them the information they need to share the incredibleness of what you do out into the world. This doesn't necessarily mean brochures or the infamous campaign letter or email that a board of directors signs with a personal note that gets thrown away. But it does mean that you have to give them the information so they can share it with their circle of influence. You must have a clear, cohesive message. In a culture of philanthropy, and that's what you really want to develop within your organization, is a culture of philanthropy. We need to change our psychology, our thinking. It's about people we know, inviting our friends to join in the work that we value. Change our thinking and the giving will follow. An important way of doing this is by having clarity of message. So the first thing we want to do is think people rather than dollars, think inviting rather than begging, and think change and asking others to join. But we have to give our board of directors the language and the message by which they can then go invite other people to participate in your organization. Telling your story with clarity means your board members can share your story in a way that makes sense to them and to their circle of influence. I want to emphasize here that telling your story doesn't mean handing them a fact sheet of how many people you serve or tons of food you give away. It is a story of your hero and the benefits you as the guide give them on their journey to a successful life. Yep, you and your agency are the guide. You're not the hero. The recipients of your support are the heroes, and you are going to guide them to success. This concept comes from Donald Miller's framework called Story Brand. If you've never read it, I highly recommend that you pick up a copy. It's a messaging framework based on Joseph Campbell's archetype of story. And it is critical in making your message clear, because if you confuse, you lose. You as a nonprofit have two heroes, your mission itself and the heroes you serve, and the donors or the heroes who make your mission possible. Okay, we don't have enough time to go through the entire story brand framework. That's a webinar in and of itself. But I do want to show you an example of this in use on a website and how it applies to the message you share with your board, because you have to align both your messaging that you're putting external out into the world with how you are educating your board on what to present when they are going out trying to involve and invite more people into your organization. I'm going to use the Christian Community Service Center in Houston as an example of a nonprofit with a clear message of who they serve and how you can help. All right, now hang in there with me, because we're going to use messaging to educate our board of directors and give them clarity on how to fundraise for your nonprofit. You must be able to have a board that can tell your story to others in order for them to invite their circle of influence into the vision of your organization. Then I'm going to walk you through some economics and some tips that you can use to educate and support your board. All right, we're examining messaging. This is the header on their website, and you can see that it highlights exactly what they do, who they serve, and it has a call to action for those they help and for their donors. I want each of you to think about your organization. Do you have a one-liner that tells everyone what you do, who you do it for, and what it accomplishes? Bonus points if you have a one-liner such as what is shown here, and it's on the home page of your website. Helping Houston families move forward through immediate basic needs relief and long-term workforce development. I know exactly what they do and who they help. And if I was a board member of this organization, I could use that language when I am going out to talk to my circle of influence to try and invite them and involve them in the organization. The next block on their site is specifically for donors and shows how their impacts, goodness. But note, it speaks to the meaningful difference in the lives of struggling Houston families. The message you train your board to tell and the message you present into the world must be aligned to be successful. Okay, here's the kicker. This next block combines the heroes. It shows how, but look at the language. It speaks to those they help and their donors. The call to action is for the recipient hero with the words get. Get food and clothing, get financial assistance. However, look at the language that they use for utility bill and rental assistance. Sometimes people just need a little bit of financial help to keep them afloat through a crisis. We help cover rent and utility payments for those who are in need and qualify for our services. You could give that exact language to your board of directors to use when they're speaking to their circle of influence. Are you beginning to see how this all aligns? Messaging is the critical first step when you are educating your board of directors on how to gather and glean involvement, whether that is volunteer time or whether that is donations of money, securities, in kind, whatever it is. The first thing you have to do is educate your board on how to invite people into your organization. This is a great example of doing that, because when they invite someone, the first thing that individual is going to do is go look at your website to figure out everything that you do and the entire impact. So if it's aligned and you're speaking the same language, that goes a long way. Okay, so here's the kicker. This is the brand script or positioning statement. And this is what I want to focus on. This is written for their recipient heroes, but their calls to action are for donor heroes and for recipient heroes. Now, we want to use this message to write something for the board to use when fundraising. This is important for 3 reasons. 1, it will align your board and everyone will share the same message. I cannot emphasize enough how critical that is as they go out into the world. 2, it will give your board the confidence, they need to share your story in a way that is meaningful. I think sometimes we forget about that, right? This board member comes on and they're energetic, they have a passion for what you do, and then we ask them to go invite people to join us, to volunteer or to give money. And a lot of times they're hesitant to do that because they don't have the confidence or the knowledge to share your story. So by giving them the language and a message to share and reiterating that on your website and whatever marketing collateral you have, it puts everybody on the same page. And I literally have had people say to me, here's what we do. I don't know if this interests you, but you can look at our website, it'll tell you more. That's not the message we really want our board to go out into the world and say, right? So we want to give them simple, clear messaging they can use. So we're going to give them confidence. And then 3, it will give your board a place to go to review messaging. And it will give them a place to direct potential supporters where the message they are sharing will be reinforced. This is much different than having your board of directors ask 15 of their friends to just give $100 to help. I don't know if you all still do that, but I know back in the day when I was a nonprofit director, that was one of the things, right? You had well, if everyone had 10 people that gave $100, right? So this will reignite the passion your board member felt when they said yes to being a member of the board. Because they have a message with passion and hope to deliver, they will be sharing and inviting people into the story of your organization. Now, I want us to look at this message. This lays out a problem and how it relates to your board member and their potential donor, because relating what you do to your potential donors is important. You want them to think about what it would be like if this was them. This message discusses the solutions you provide, who you help, and has a call to action. It directly correlates to the story you're sharing for your recipient heroes. Now, let's talk about calls to action. This is something that we need to discuss with our boards. And what I'm going to lead into next, who we ask and how we ask and the importance of the ask, but we're going to talk about the importance of giving as well. We want to give them language. So for instance, this is something they could say to someone. We've all had a crisis happen in our lives, and we're lucky in that we have the resources to handle whatever comes our way. Problem is, for so many people, they're struggling to make ends meet. So when a crisis hits, they don't have the financial wherewithal. I'm on the board of the Christian Community Services Center, and we help Houston families move forward through immediate basic needs relief and long-term workforce development so they can live with hope and enthusiasm. If I'm a member of this board, this message resonates with me, and it gives me the language to use when speaking to my sphere of influence. So reframe a statement to give your boards a story to tell. Understanding how donors think and respond and act is essential. Not everyone will align with your particular mission, and that is okay. Your board of directors needs to understand that everyone within their circle of influence has a passion for philanthropy in some way, shape, or form, but that it may not necessarily be a passion that aligns with your particular mission. In other words, they're going to hear the word no, and that's okay. All right, we have a clear message that we can share with our boards. We have them confident when they go out into the world to help support your organization by sharing their passion for what you do. Now, for a little geometry as it pertains to fundraising, let's use a circle, a rectangle, and a triangle. I always find that this geometry of giving is something that boards understand and they remember. Also important. So feel free to rip off this presentation and show it to your board of directors. All right. Pareto's principle is alive and well in fundraising. It is a general given that 80% of the dollars come from 20% of the donors, and 80% of all charitable giving in the United States comes from individuals. Only 5% of all charitable gifts come from corporations and corporate foundations, yet we are all constantly seeking grants and corporate donations. Private foundations and government grants make up the other 15%. Now, there are certain entities that are the exception to the above, but for the most part, this is how the nonprofit world works. Thus, the goal is to move your donor from an initial prospect or attendee of events up the pyramid to planned giving. Individuals have a path, and moving them through the path takes quite a bit of effort on your part. The starting point is that members of your board should be loyal annual givers. As the director of the organization, then you should strive to move them to the major donor category. That one is on you. But I also want us to examine what that means. Not only can a major donor be one who donates monetarily, it also can be in-kind donations, or it can be volunteer hours. There are a lot of ways that you can create a major donor category. Continuing to gather new donors that move from initial donation to annual giving to being a major giver is a collective effort between you and your board of directors. That being said, the difference between donors and major donors, well, cultivating major donors brings the greatest ROI over other giving opportunities. One cultivated donor giving $1,000 equals 20 gifts of 50, and the return on time invested is certainly greater. This is a process that involves time and effort on your part and on the part of your board. If your board members aren't loyal annual givers, how can they be expected to cultivate other loyal annual givers? And of course, how can they be expected to raise major gifts? Now, I do want us to look at a couple of things on this chart, okay? So this is ROI, cost per $1 raised, okay? So obviously, major gifts, that's returns the greatest, right? Cost 10 cents on the dollar. I want us to look at how much events cost, 50 cents for the dollar. They're also a lot of work and they stress your staff. I'm not saying not to throw events, but I'm saying that when you do use the different aspects of fundraising to think through what your goals and objectives are. So for instance, if you're doing an event, think through what you're trying to achieve. Are you going to have an event, I'm using simple math here, of 100 individuals? They each pay $10 to come to this event. What is your goal out of those 100 individuals? Do you want them to become loyal annual donors? Well, then you have to think through what that looks like to cultivate them. And we'll talk about that whole cultivation cycle in a minute. At the same time, you've got to look at major gifts at 10 cents on the dollar or the dollar. Did I say that correctly? And what that looks like. Because again, one major gift of $1,000, which is equal to 20 at 50, it makes sense. But you have to have every piece on the spectrum to make it work. Okay. Moving your donor through the process is very intentional. Involvement in the work that you do leads directly to high levels of giving and engagement. One needs to lead to the other. A question to ask yourself is, what level of involvement do I see now from my board of directors? And how can I create opportunities for the board to be more involved? Additionally, remember that involvement means different things to different people. I'll give you an example. A board I sit on is going through the initial work of a capital campaign. I'm in marketing. The director reached out to see if I could help with messaging and collateral development. This is right up my alley. I can do this from my computer. If, however, she had asked me to be on site once a week for the next 3 months to help with boots on the grounds type involvement, I'd have to say no. You must know the strengths and the involvement characteristics of your board. If you have a one-time project, I am your girl. Count on me. I can budget time. If you have projects that highlight my strengths, I'm in. Don't ask me to do anything recurring. My schedule's too wonky to commit. So one of the first things that I would ask you to do is to do an assessment of your board. Create a chart of their strengths and types of involvement they can participate in, then work to have them involved in projects that fit their strengths. Do this with your major donors as well. How can they be more involved? Because remember, if you're looking at our chart, the higher the involvement, right? High involvement equates to high giving. So we want them to be involved to increase their giving, right? All right. Lost my dot here. Here we go. All right, remember geometry? We've touched on the triangle. Let's move into the circle of influence. Prospects have friends. Friends become donors. Donors have friends who are prospects, and so on and so on. Your goal is to have an ever-evolving list of friends, prospects, and donors. It will always be changing based on people's circumstances and vision of their personal philanthropy. All right, the rectangle. The rectangle outlines how we move those in our circle of influence to our donors. I want you to think ABC. And I'm serious, you're welcome to use this presentation with your board of directors. You can call it ABCs of fundraising, right? A is the access. We have to have people in our circle of influence. For example, there's a couple locally here in Birmingham, Raymond and Catherine Harbert Corporation. Unless you know one of them, specifically, unless you know Catherine, the odds are anything you send to her is going in the trash. You see, knowing that Raymond and Catherine give generously isn't enough. You should also know that Catherine is the one that directs their philanthropy and that their main giving focus on the arts in the theater, specifically Red Mountain Theater. The B is for belief that must be cultivated in our agency and our impact. Major donors invest in impact, and agencies that demonstrate they are moving the needle, you got to address what they believe in. Thus, you must know why they are a good fit for your organization. C is for capacity of the donor to make the gift we are asking. And remember the 5 R's. The right person making the right ask for the right amount, for the right reason, at the right time. Unfortunately, we often start with capacity and just anyone without having a relationship or an understanding of their belief system to even know if they are a good fit. I'm going to use myself as an example. If you know me, I have 4 children, one of which is in college, and the youngest of which will be starting college in the fall. Left out through a wedding for the second oldest child last summer. Now is not a great time for anyone to ask me to make a major donation of any kind. Annual gift? Sure. Major donation? No way. Now, fast forward 4 years, and I will be in a position to make a major donation. I'm already contemplating what that looks like based on my beliefs, which are literacy and the arts. But if someone has me on their list, and hey, don't all of you in literacy and the arts add me to your list, okay? But a board member on, say, the Literacy Foundation says, hey, I know Lisa, she loves literacy. She used to be on the board. I'm going to talk to her about getting involved at the Literacy Council. That board member is going to ask me and have a conversation, a discussion about their ask. All we're asking our board to do is to go forth and ask people to be involved. We're inviting them to be involved. We're not necessarily inviting them to, hey, just give us a donation. We want them to be involved long-term in our organization to move them up the triangle into a major donor. Now, if someone else from, say, the Firehouse Shelter, the homeless shelter here in Birmingham, I mean, I love the fact that this exists, and I might attend their annual event, and my family has gone and served there, but it's not something that I necessarily have a passion for. So if one of their board members comes to me, I'll probably say no, other than getting involved at a smaller level. It isn't because I can't, it's because it isn't my strongest belief. See how this works? You have to address the access. Then you have to think through their belief system and their capacity, right? So connections, the cause and how it relates to them and to you. And then the 5 R's, who has that ask? And it really has to come in that order. It's critical that you and your board understand your donors and potential donors at every level. And yes, this takes time. Create a spreadsheet, review your annual donors, review the ABCs of giving, determine who might be ready to move into the major gift category this year, but also who needs to be continually cultivated to be more involved in your organization because they've already expressed interest over the next few years. They enter, they move through, and they can become a major donor. This spreadsheet and discussion should be done with your board on an ongoing basis. It's how you determine who has access, who knows if your potential donors and friends of donors have the same beliefs you have and would be willing to give, and if they have the capacity to give. Once you've crafted your spreadsheet for your current donors and look at the ABCs of growth there, you and your board of directors can create a spreadsheet with potential friends that they have access to that may have the belief in what you're doing and have the capacity to give. Then, with a clear message and options of how to be involved, your board can invite new people to be involved, whether by volunteering, attending an event, or becoming a donor. It isn't just a money ask. Remember our original talk at the beginning? It's the language. You're inviting them. Your board doesn't want to just go beg for money. I want us to take that off the table. We really want to give our board the message and the language to use with their friends and potential donors, just getting involved. What does that look like? Here are different ways you can do that, and equipping them with a clear message that they can share into the world. Words are important. We must always be moving prospects and donors through the fundraising circle of life, so to speak. And that circle of life coordinates with what is happening in the circle of life we all live in, right? I got way too many things going on right now. But in another year or two, cultivation, qualification, solicitation, I'll be there, right? Move through that fundraising circle, and people can come in and out of different phases. It's just knowing that it is an ever evolving, ever changing circle of life. But be okay with that and continue to ask. There are characteristics and stages we must be cognizant of, and we need to create touch points for each step of the cycle. How do you identify? Do your ABCs? How do you cultivate? How do you qualify? How do you solicit? We must know where each prospect and donor is in the cycle so we can speak to them accordingly and equip our board with the information and messaging they need to speak and encourage. Once a potential donor is identified, add them to your spreadsheet and walk them through the ABCs. Who on your board has access? Do they have the same belief system or passion for what you do? How can you determine when that board member conversation needs to happen? And then, do they have the capacity now or will they in the future? Cultivation is conversation where qualification will occur. Say that 3 times fast. Based on said conversation, then an ask can be made when the time is right. Once money is given, acknowledging and recognizing the gift, whether of time or money, needs to occur along with a demonstration of how the money is spent. This will continue to happen as you move a new attendee or one-time donor into an annual donor and eventually into a major donor, and potentially they'll become part of your planned giving program. Our focus is always on the people who are our donors and prospects, never on the money itself. Involvement in the organization leads to giving, which leads to greater involvement, engagement, and investment. Most importantly, this grows our circle of influence and expands our impact. It's okay. In fact, it's great to know when someone isn't interested in your organization because they have a passion for something else. But you have to have a clear message that your board can use, and you must get fundraising top of mind. It's not a once-a-year letter campaign. It's an ongoing cycle where you're moving people from friends to attendees to donors, etc. Got some takeaways and some ideas for you. 1, language for your board. Think people, not dollars. Think inviting, not begging. Think change and asking others to join. I also suggest that you create a list of your board and determine how they like to be involved. Leverage their skill sets and monetary involvement to create major donors of everyone on your board. This could be in time or money. The more your board is involved, the more they'll understand how to involve others. By the way, ask them how they'd like to be involved. Now, take a list of your loyal and annual donors and working with your board, determine how you can involve your donors more in the work that you do. Again, based on abilities and time availability with the intent that your annual loyal donors become major donors. You will need to cultivate this, conversations and asking, always, but know when to ask. I've got a story that a friend of mine told me the other day. He was in charge of United Way's, I guess he was at the Y or United Way at this time, Plan Giving. His name is David Hall. Some of you might know him. So he was at the Y working out, and he saw the president of Alltech working out at the Y. Now, he didn't just go up to him and say, "Hey, Lee Steislander, we'd love for you to donate to the Y." Lee Steislander didn't know who David Hall was, right? So he waited, and eventually they would speak to one another. Hey, you know how you do at the gym, right? And 6 months later, they saw each other at an event and had a conversation that led to a meeting that led to a major gift a period of time later, as in a year or more later. Cultivating donors takes time. But what David told me was, he goes, once I saw him and knew that he was a participant at the Y, I put him on my list. And I started thinking of who has access to him other than me. We know he has a belief in what we're doing at the Y. I see him there 3 or 4 days a week. We know he has the capacity, or we think he has the capacity. So how do I cultivate a relationship with this individual so that they become a donor? I just thought that was a great story of thinking through how you put someone and walk them through a donor cycle and understanding that it takes time. It's not a, oh, go ask them right now, but really thinking about when it's appropriate. Okay. Craft a clear, concise message of who you are, who you serve, and why someone should be a part of your organization, and align everyone on the board to that message so everyone is saying the same thing to everyone. Make sure your website, your social media, and any piece of collateral resonates with the same message. People need to hear something 15 times before they take action. So anytime they hear something about your organization, it needs to be the same consistent message. And the donor life cycle is constantly in motion. So at every board meeting, review portions of your spreadsheet update information and conversation. Keeping your friends and donors top of mind mean you and your board are more likely to ask at the appropriate time. It can't be a one-time, once-a-year type of an ask. It really needs to be an ongoing, ever-present type of experience where your board is constantly inviting other people to participate. And by participate, it could be inviting their church youth group to come and do an activity at your organization to raise awareness of your organization within the church. Now, all of a sudden, you've expanded your circle of influence and more people are aware of your organization and what you do. It could be a board member getting involved with your organization and bringing people in from their place of work that might have a matching gift program. It could also be their board of director working with someone out in the community who's their best friend who is president of an organization and cultivating and inviting them to join. So there are a lot of different ways that getting more people involved looks, with the understanding that once they get involved, you move them through the donor life cycle and up the ladder. And remember the 5 R's: the right person making the right ask for the right amount, for the right reason, at the right time. All right. I have had a blast doing this for you guys. In fact, I actually, when I did this webinar, used the spreadsheet and took it back to the board that I'm on and went, hey, we really need to do this with all of our annual donors because we hadn't even done it. So if you guys have any questions, I think Claire will let me know. But also, if you would like to reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, that's great. Here's my email address. You can call me or text me if you'd like more information. But again, feel free to use this presentation with your board to educate them. And if you'd like for me to come speak to your board, let me know. I'm happy to do that as well. All right, Claire, do we have any questions?
I don't believe so, but anyone is welcome to unmute themselves. I don't see anything in the chat. We'll give it just a minute if anyone has any last minute questions. Okay, if not, I can close this off. Lisa, thank you so much for a wonderful program. That was amazing, and we appreciate you doing this for us so much. To all of our participants, thank you for joining us. You will be getting an email with a link to today's presentation and a recording and an opportunity to sign up to be a Carey Center nonprofit affiliate. The Carey Center nonprofit affiliate program currently serves over 300 nonprofits in Alabama and beyond and offers educational programming, professional development, and networking opportunities to nonprofit professionals. Carey Center nonprofit affiliates are the first to learn about an upcoming program, and membership is free. We are excited to announce that we are now offering the Carey Center Nonprofit Professional Certificate. This is an online, non-degreed certificate and offered through a partnership with the Auburn University Office of Professional Education and Merit Nonprofit Professional Development, and provides a tailored curriculum for nonprofit professionals. Merit is an anytime, anywhere micro e-learning platform that builds 6 core nonprofit proficiency areas, which include leading, learning, resource generating, planning, managing, and overseeing through 28 learning paths. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope to see you at one of our monthly virtual programs or in person at one of our nonprofit training series traveling the state. Thank you guys so much for being here.